I just don't have this desire to make a lot of money. I think I have a desire to make money which is comfortable for my lifestyle and reasonably well assured for the family. But I don't mind generating good returns for myself if I have a fortitude to do good things in life, in some good investment, good impact work. But in any case, you need money. You need a lot of money to do good things.
Thank you so much for joining us on Live Long and Prosper. It is wonderful to have you here. And I know I'm catching you at a moment of great transition in your life in the Singapore industry. So really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Sure. I mean, it's my pleasure. And as you said, I'm going through one of the changes of life. Interesting if I go through this process and come out, hopefully like you. Okay, reasonably okay for me. I don't have a lot of big shift, but this is a very interesting time, very personal, very reflective. I would say very reflective.
So good time to catch you for a podcast.
Of course, and you may get something out of me now, which otherwise would have been very difficult.
No, we will always try to get the best of you. But since we just touched on GFTN, do you want to talk a little bit about GFTN and what your vision is for that?
GFTN is a product of, I would say, 10 years of hard work, not only within MAS, what we did, but also the industry's whole engagement with us. And that whole process of collaboration created this unique opportunity for us to take a step back and say to ourselves, it's something we can create beyond Singapore, and something which is globally useful, relevance, something that benefits a larger community. And that was the genesis of where we constructed this global finance technology network. And it has got all the four words. It is global. It has finance and technology as the core part of the process we are going to focus on. And it is a network. It's collaborative by the design. It is a non-profit at the top because we want to ensure that the larger purpose is actually doing public good. But we took inspiration from very good models around the world. And if I have to paraphrase a very important person, which I can't quote him, given where the situation is now, he said that you can't do public good with public money. The scale you want to do, you want to have value product under you, which will generate capital for you to do public good. So that led to two structures below GFTN. One is GFTN Services, which will focus on building a kind of a comprehensive ecosystem stack from primary information networks, which is the forums, strategic advisory, and digital platform, which fits into advisory for many markets who need digital solutions. That's one part of the business. The second part of the business is investment part. And we have seen, and you have seen this space yourself, especially in the Asian market, people think VC investment through the lens of a PE. And that's the structural problem we have in Asian market. So we need to develop a new kind of capital, which will allow long-term investment, patient capital, also create some kind of collaborative construct of asset, which will be able to do a better M&A exit for young, small market startups. So that's the investment arm. And we bring it together. So you have the connectivity to our network, you have the capacity development to the advisory, and you have the capital. We stitch it together. It becomes a very viable, financially sustainable enterprise. And any surplus capital we get there, we'll push it to the holding company to blend with philanthropic capital to do underwrite public goods.
It's super interesting. The whole model, it almost feels like the cycle, right? Where the goal is public goods, but you've got a bunch of these private market capabilities and a fund formation that then all work together.
And if you think about it, and given you have spent time in India in your own job, if you underwrite this infrastructure for emerging market, it becomes a conditional environment for new assets to go and find opportunity there. So it's kind of, it fits back to the system.
The investment fund that you talked about, that's primarily focused on these kinds of developments.
Global South.
Global South.
But we had, Global South, but somebody also told me that to do good, you must do well. So the investment returns are also going to be what market expects us to return on this fund. So, and that's quite a difficult task. It's not easy to say, but difficult to execute, but that's okay. So the return expectation of our LPs will not be different. But we hope that we get into the right model where we can generate the capital for public good.
Oh, that's really fascinating. In a way, I know in the past you've still been very involved with Mojalu.
Yes.
These kinds of public
Yes.
stacks that
Yes.
governments and other countries can
Yes.
leverage.
Yes.
So seems like a continuation of that.
And also a bit of market. We're improving the model because we do see existing models are struggling long-term viability. So we've got to figure out what the best way to move this. So it's still a work in progress, I would say. We still have to figure out.
Fascinating. Thank you for sharing that about GFTN. I wanted to move a little bit from GFTN to your personal story.
Yes.
And I've known you for many years now, and I've seen you sort of do some major shifts in your careers, right? You were a banker for a couple of decades. You literally built the Singapore FinTech system over the last decade.
Yes.
And as soon as we're at a, what would feel like peak of your
peak of my career, where everything going perfect,
you decide to take on a bigger jump. So I mean, you are an innovator by nature, but what's the story and how have you been thinking about each of these steps?
I would say something because many years back, somebody was saying to me that, Sops, you make a change when things are absolutely perfect for you, because that's the only time you can take a risk. When the advice was good, but when I jumped into this new thing, I'm a little having a rethink in my life. Well, it's easy to say, but difficult to execute. Yes. Back to your question, you come to a point in your life where you think that you're in a comfort zone and you continue to do that piece of work, but then you start questioning, is there anything left in you as a person that you can do something else? And when you think that way, you start looking around you and see, is the right time to make a shift? And there's never a good time. And I realized never a good time. And when you jump into that choice you're going to make, most of the issues which you have never anticipated will actually come after you jump. Nothing in the world today exists which will tell you all the possible risk and surprises before the jump. So it's a moot point to do a complete analysis before you jump. And I also read this new book, B 2.0 by Jim Collins. And he talks about if you are constantly looking for options in your life, you'll continue to look for options in your life. You'll never make that decision. So this is my time. So I made a decision. I jumped into this new opportunity for myself and for the community who want to work with me. And I almost feel like it's an irreversible jump. I cannot come back to where I am today with this jump. So it's one-way traffic.
Yeah, it's one-way traffic. No, it's an exciting jump. It's an exciting jump. And if I can dig a little bit into it, I mean, there's obviously the professional and your personal reasons.
Yes, right? Yes.
But how did you think about this in terms of your family, your broader life, finances? Yeah, a lot of our listeners are thinking of career changes and jumps, and love to learn from how you thought about it in the holistic way.
Maybe I have to go back a little bit to the pre-MAS job. When I shifted from a very comfortable bank job to a regulatory job, there is always a question when it comes to personal salary. A very simple question. Why would one go to a public sector where, your compensation are not necessarily market driven?
I mean, definitely not a banker compensation.
Yeah. And that's a very, very fundamental decision point in our life when you make those choices. When I had this vague idea that if I make certain change in my career from a private sector to public sector, maybe, and it's a very selfish reason sometimes, maybe if I do it right, the opportunity downstream or further downstream will be far bigger than the incremental personal financial gain you get by continuing what you do. But to jump to a big opportunity, there is a need for reset. And the reset can be as dramatic as, at least from my perspective, switching my own career.
Yeah.
And it may work, may not work. Sometimes you go back to where you came from and continue the path. So like many people in the world, we make choices. And the only thing I would say, don't make the choices which are similar looking. If you really want to make a big change, make a drastic change. And I go back to the book, irreversible change. If you think about a plan B, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
it'll be suboptimal, very suboptimal.
So as you were thinking through these changes, did you talk to others, get counsel? Like, how did you?
Okay. And you use the word called family, right? And I think if you look at, and most of us at this point of our life, we reflect on the purpose of our life. And that's put up a very purpose question. I tend to frame in key lines: family, friendship, and fortitude. Family helps gives you the comfort. So whatever choice you make, we are with you.
Yeah.
Friends lift you up. I know you are worried, but let us lift you up to an optimism. So family will not necessarily give an optimism; they give a comfort.
Yeah.
So family for comfort, friends for lifting you up, and the fortitude part is that resilience, that the change you want to make, the impact you want to make. If you get all the three things lined up over a period of that transition period, I think there is some way forward. But of course, when things go wrong, you got to go back to this three word. Start with family. Look, I really messed it up.
Yeah. I'm back.
I'm back.
I'm yours.
And then you go back to your friend and say, look, help me to get things right. So you got to stay connected to this three pieces of strength which you want to look forward to these transitions. And that's something I learned. Is not something I was taught. It's a part of a journey.
Is this framework something you came up with?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful framework.
It's something. It's a very basic framework.
It's very basic, but it's funny. I mean, this podcast is about you, but just like for me, it's a very important message because in a way, as you go through the entrepreneurial journey, at various points of time, things are going great. At the same way, things are going terrible. And being able to think about it this way, like family is there for comfort, friends there for lifting you up, and the fortitude is ultimately what comes from within you.
Yeah,
very powerful.
But that's where it's almost like not thinking about it. Almost naturally, it has fallen in place for me, and it's always seems to have worked for me. I'm sure your listener will find some way to look at this three word to construct their thinking,
but also to like just be what sounds like from when you're talking. Like you almost explicitly made sure that these are in place.
Yes, and I think I was lucky that I could recognize these are the three pillars of building blocks of your career, and I tend not to compare careers because all of us have different path, different financial outcome of what we do, different social impact we do, but all have same journey. Same issues, same risks, same challenges, and we got to get into those final straws of hope using these three methods.
So, family and friends, I can understand. What do you do to build your fortitude?
Fortitude partly comes from your friend circle. They influence a lot. They actually discover in you what you can do well in your life or what you can add value. Partly comes from your own upbringing, and partly from where you started your journey. For me, that's very important because I started my journey from a very small town. And when you're growing up in a small town in India, you are almost a rebel. You are fighting against every possible opportunity which is not yours. Every possible opportunity is not supposed to be yours. You're going to really fight it and get it for yourself. And part of my current work and my last 10-year work is always about Global South. And part is also in my DNA from coming up from a small town in India. There's so much thing why I'm not entitled to. And over years, I've always made it part of my thinking, and that kind of translates to my work. It has been part of my own products which I've delivered is all somehow linked to that small town thinking. Why I'm not entitled to many things in life.
Yeah, why can't I get this?
Why can't I get this?
Why can't I get this for everybody else?
Yes. So if I can get it, can I share this with the broader audience?
It really resonates with us. I mean, that's you know the core mission behind
Yeah.
Take these financial superpowers and then bring them to millions more people, and it's something that we felt in our own life.
Yes, indeed. And especially growing up in India, if you spend large part of your early part of your life in a small town, this becomes part of your DNA. Very recently, somebody asked a question. When you're insecure, you compromise. When you have fear, you fight. And I responded to somebody like this because for some discussion around why you are behaving a certain way, I say that I'm fighting for something because because there's a fear in me. But I don't have insecurity. It's quite different. Insecurity comes when you are already entitled to many things. You don't want to lose it, so you compromise. I have never a problem of compromise because I have never insecure. There's nothing to be insecure about. So again, part of that also comes from the fortitude side. That what you are as you grow up. Are you an insecure person or are you a fearful person? And nothing wrong with being fear. It's just part of a human system.
Yeah, I heard a term last week, which is not fearful, but fear aware.
Yes. Yeah,
Right,
that's quite deep.
Right, which is I'm aware of my fear,
Yes,
and
yeah.
therefore I know what to address.
Yeah. That's a better frame to fear aware. And sometimes our response comes that looks like a fight, but actually we're responding very strongly, getting back and overcoming that fear.
Very, very interesting. Before we go into talking about your relationship with finance, it would be a remiss of me if I didn't ask you some stuff about the fintech ecosystem.
Yes,
and
please.
how you think, where it is in terms of, journey you've seen. So Singapore FinTech ecosystem, what's your view, analysis? What's your prediction for the next 5-10 years?
When we started Singapore FinTech ecosystem in 2015, within 6 months, actually I was completely lost, because then the FinTech definition was very simple. There are two products: better payment system, better lending product. And the market is unserved, unbanked. You take this unserved, unbanked, doesn't apply to Singapore. You can question whether the right product existed or most efficient payment system exists. Yes, that could be an opportunity to fix it. But your impact is to set of people are not unserved or unbanked. So I had a very narrow view then. So it's kind of made me very frustrated that I'm going to fix a problem for a very narrow definition. And in that frustration, given I didn't have a larger strategic view, and that was the genesis of creating Singapore FinTech Festival. That sometimes we don't know, ask for help. And the ask for help is not, in my mind, not a small bunch of people gathering in a room and brainstorming. Make it public. Yeah. Make your problem a public statement. The first Singapore FinTech Festival was a set of public statement. Can you reimagine the world of FinTech? And the reason we created is for us to discover what we don't know. And it's magical that the first FinTech Festival seemed to have caught attention of many people, and they all showed up. Some 11,000 people agreed to show up. And the best way to define it was late Anshu Jain. He says the Woodstock movement for FinTech. People showing up, don't know what exactly to expect.
But they're showing up.
Yeah, showing up.
Yeah.
And in that process, we collected a huge set of advice, intelligence, reflection. And we changed the definition of FinTech out of Singapore to a much broader set. And we started calling FinTech wherever technology changes a certain business model for a greater good is FinTech for us. It doesn't have to be a segment driven. It can be for wealthy customers. It can be a developed market. Wherever it makes an impact, it changes the business model. And that led to perhaps, I would not claim that space, but let's give me some slack here. Large part of the B2B FinTech originated from that thought process. Yep. That you don't necessarily be in the space of impacting consumer, but you can be behind the institution which is impacting consumers.
Yep.
So the B2B FinTech became a mantra for Singapore FinTech ecosystem, and that gave us this huge lift over next 10 years. And today we are one of the top 3 hubs, because largely we are B2B focused, because a small country is better off by focusing on a good regulatory construct, experiment with new models, helping those B2B companies to be more efficient backend for working in the frontier areas. So that's the model. That's how we went. So Singapore FinTech Festival was my outsourced model for telling me what to do.
Fascinating. Fascinating. And the B2B point now that you mentioned is absolutely right. I mean, the fact that you got the whole ecosystem together. It wasn't just tech companies, but actually the big banks and the players who are established.
Yes.
Keep this whole big.
Yes. And in fact, our first public policy for my new role was actually an API guidelines. You would not expect a central bank. First public statement would be, let's encourage bank to move to an API architecture. Very unusual move. Our first public, almost after that, we looked at use of cloud because we realized for a B2B market to succeed, the infrastructure needs a new rethinking from a policy standpoint. So there's full, if you look at our policy stance, as always geared to building that backend infrastructure. Of course, we took inspiration from India stack and we built our own construct of Pay Now, all these things, ISG Findex, SingPass on top. But they're all geared to create that backend platform, right regulation, right opportunity to do experiments and drive that broader financial sector transformation.
I think also the credit to you, you pulled in all the different segments of the ecosystem.
Yes.
I remember when I was at Google, you very early on you engaged.
Yes,
we weren't even thinking about payments.
Yes.
Like, what role can Google play?
Yes. It is a very random act because I realized that you have to ask people help without knowing what to expect from them. And this all this cultural values you look at is expressed in Singapore FinTech Festival. One of the reasons it survived over 10 years and been successful is that it is still the most open platform when it comes to policy discussion. It's a very rare place where every policymaker around the world feel comfortable to have an open discussion. And we take a lot of pride in that. And next time you come to Singapore FinTech Festival, I want you to observe one thing. We are the only global event program where the front row seats are not differently designed. You know, you go to any of this public event, the first row is like a big white sofa.
That's true. That is true.
And the only one and it was a deliberate design. No VIP culture. It is a platform for everyone to feel equal and be able to discuss in an open way. And it has symbolism there, but it is a message to the broader audience that you come to Singapore FinTech Festival, will not question who you are, will respect the ideas of bringing to the program. So that's the kind of ethos on which you build.
That's fantastic. That's really clear. So where do you see Singapore FinTech going now in the next 10 years? What are the areas you're most excited about? Any trends you're very
Part is more transactional, that the GFTN construct is going to be a partner with MAS and MAS own journey to take to the next stage. Made a very interesting frame for the next journey for MAS. He wants to focus on AI. He wants to focus on tokenization of assets, which I think the future of finance is going to land there. And also he talked about a further push in global collaboration on the foundational stacks, payment connectivity, data connectivity, all those things. So these are the 3 areas MAS will double down and you continue to focus. Me as moving over to GFTN will enable some of this thought process and be part of the journey together. So I think Singapore will continue to evolve, but we should be always nimble to pivot to things if things don't work, and we should not be complacent. What worked for us will work for us in the next 10 years, and what I'm saying today may not work tomorrow. And I think we've got to constantly evolve, and that's what we have been doing now.
Especially with stuff like AI happening.
It can go anywhere. And there are unintended consequences. If data is your destiny, then we're not a country generating a lot of data.
Yeah.
And then it's just the fundamental questions: how you're going to build a model we're still relevant if you're not the destiny and you're not the data creator. So there's a whole set of uncertain processes there. But I think with the ecosystem we have built and our shameless ability to ask for help will always help us.
Fantastic. Great. So to go from Singapore to you, one of the things I like asking our guests on this podcast is their personal philosophy and principles of finance. And It's quite interesting because you've been in finance for most of your life.
Yes.
How do you think about finance in your personal life?
You will be surprised. It's a mess. It's a mess.
We can help you.
It's a complete mess. You assume that because you're in finance all your life, you understand, making personal financial choices has nothing to do with your understanding of finance. It's a behavioral thing. And sometimes for very unjustifiable reason, you don't think much about your own finance. And I would admit my personal choices on finance is perhaps not even worth talking about it. I have not really thought about it. I'm going to invest in this. There's a long-term planning. Partly it is force, partly it is friends telling me this is a great idea, and partly it is like serendipity. Okay? Sometimes serendipity works, Sometimes friends make certain call for you and you go with that. But I'll not be proud to say that I get it right for myself. And I'm sure that many people like me who are in the same.
Stop. Actually, most people are like you. In fact, this is why we started Art, because for most of us,
Yeah,
we felt this is exactly how we
yeah,
operated.
yeah.
We focused on our careers and
Yeah.
our families,
Yes, yes.
and what suffered was any kind of financial planning.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about this. This is, and I'm feeling shame to say
No,
that.
it's true. It's true for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. Like, I'm saying this as, I'm the founder of Arta. I started it because this was my journey.
Yeah,
And then we realized like we all need like a tool or a personal banker in a way.
I have come to this very important understanding in my life. When it comes to finance, get a good external partner for you. Unless you're super smart, you know exact, but I think most of us are not super smart. So if you're reasonably smart, don't make it a single source of your strength for doing the right finance. Get a partner, get a good tool for yourself, and figure out a way. All my good investment return is where I got a good advice, which is nothing to do with me. Finding that good advice and a proper planner
And access
is
and-
absolutely required. And this is something we just don't do it, but we have to do it for ourselves, for our family going forward. Yeah. So I'm a last person to give the great advice on just get the right person to help.
Get the right person. Yeah, and actually, it is a journey that I've seen many of our members
Yes,
go through
yes.
at Arta.
I can quantify if I have bad choices, why it is a bad choice. But when it comes to personal finance, it's a very different thing.
Yeah, and personal is also everybody has a different set of desires in their life, their pressures, their commitments. Those are all very.
I
unique,
think
right?
Let me pick on that word: personal choices and personal desire. Somehow, I don't know. I just don't have this desire to make a lot of money. I think I have a desire to make money which is comfortable for my lifestyle and reasonably well assured for the family. But I don't mind generating good returns for myself if I have a fortitude to do good things in life, in some good investment, good impact work. But in any case, you need money. You need a lot of money to do good things. And I go back to one of my friends' advice: to do good, you must do well.
Just to
And to do well, you want to get your finance right.
Yeah. No, that is true, and that's for all professionals.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that's the mission we are on.
Yeah.
So we hope we're trying to serve many people like us here. A couple of questions to close off sort of all of this. What advice would you give to the 25-year-old Sop if you could go back and give some advice to him?
If I had to go back from 25 years off, okay, don't start building your career by comparing to somebody else. You will never get there. That comparison will be the second best for you. That's one thing I did wrong when I started. I think that's something I corrected further down up as I moved in my career. I started building who I am. That's one thing. Second thing is there's a huge returns in your life if you're just kind. We don't realize, and we think competitiveness and being unkind to your colleagues, to your friends, or whatever it is to build a better career. On the long run, that doesn't pay. Being a kind and empathetic individual, it may not be visible in the first 10 years of a life, but somewhere down when you're 35, 40, the payback is in multiple terms. Just be a kind and empathetic person. I think something I would love to correct myself when I was 25, brass, trying to be super smart and trying to dismiss other people was not a great thing.
I'm glad I've only seen the kind part of you.
But that's something I would have loved to change. And the third part is learn how to tell a good story. It's a very important part of the life. But frame things in right way, communication, tell the story. It's not about telling it the most elegant way, but telling it the right way. Communication, storytelling is a big part of your life. And that's such a useful tool long run.
Great advice, not just to the Sop, but to everyone.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'm going to ask 3 lightning questions to close off. These are sort of fill in the blanks. So I'll say a statement and then just whatever comes to your mind. Right? If you want to prosper, never underestimate the power of
collaboration, power of reaching out to people, the power of understanding yourself I think these are three things I will.
It's actually just one, but you give me three.
Yeah.
Second question, the three key ingredients for a long, fulfilling life are?
I mean, I just told us family, friends, and fortitude. I did the three things.
It's perfect. Simple joy that adds years to your life.
I've just developed this. I just want to take a complete break from my sphere of work and just attend a literary festival, hearing some poets and writers talking about philosophy. I just find it tremendous joy and delight. It almost makes you look back at yourself. And that's my new joy of life. Just break away from.
Have you found one?
Yeah, I'm now made a point to go and attend every literary festival now as an habit now, just to hear other people
In
talk.
Singapore?
Outside also.
Outside also?
Yes, I'm started booking a calendar now. So
wow. Okay, that's an interesting one.
yeah, I just want to have I want to look what people have done outside this space.
It's fascinating.
And then you see some of this reflection in Singapore FinTech Festival. We had Shashi Tharoor in the FinTech Festival. One of the reasons is just to understand a very different kind of person. And that's just driving me a lot now.
The speech he gave was so...
Yeah, it's wonderful. They come with a different lens.
Absolutely. Very good. Sop, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate your being on Live Long and Prosper.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.